Right, properly welcome now. Let's get started. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for braving the rail strike, if that affected you in any way. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Steffen Zschaler. I'm the director of the MDENet network, and I'm very pleased to welcome you all here. There's about as many, again, who will join us momentarily, I'm sure. But we'll get started. There's quite a few people, I think, online as well, who are also listening in, so we don't want to keep everybody waiting. We've got quite a full and packed program today and tomorrow. We'll start in a moment with a keynote by Lola, who's here already with us. But I wanted to give you a little bit of an update on the network first before we do that. Tell you a little bit about where we are, what we've done so far, where we're going next, and then we'll move into the keynote. So let me see whether I can make this work. Hello. Obviously, network only works because there's people who make it work, and there's a community. We've got quite a few people who are sort of registered as members of the network. 516. When I made those slides, it tends to grow a little bit every day. Got sort of 3 working groups, but more importantly, we've got these sort of 3 strands that sit underneath those working groups that actually do a lot of the work. We've got this working group around research. And some of the things that we've been doing in that space is been doing quite a lot of these sort of research demonstrations. And if you haven't seen them yet, they're all on YouTube. We've run some thematic workshops, which were sort of smaller day-long events, people getting together. 5 of those. We've funded quite a lot of seed-corn projects, which quite a few of which we will hear about tomorrow. I think all of the ones that didn't tell you about their work last year, we're talking about their work this year. So you'll see those tomorrow. So there's been quite a lot going on there, which I'm quite happy with. We've also done a fair amount of stuff around training, and again, there's some interesting things that you'll be seeing today here. We've had quite a few training sessions, which are sort of slightly longer online sessions, again, tutorial style sessions. Again, all of these are on YouTube, on different MDE tools and aspects and approaches. So please feel free to check those out. There's some learning resources still available on our community platform. I think those have been built sort of in the first 2 years mostly. I think we've added 1 in this last year, but the majority of them were there. And then we've run what I quite enjoyed, actually, these sort of modeling teaching sessions, which were people who teach MDE or are involved in teaching in some way, getting together and talking about how they do this and what works, what doesn't work, which has worked quite well as well. And then over the last year, Will here, give us a wave. Going to be embarrassing, built what we call the MDENet education platform, which is an online tool that allows you to use MDE tools and work with them without having to install stuff, etc. Actually be able to try things out quite easily. And actually, in the tutorial today, I think you'll see some of that, and Antonio will use that for that, so you'll be able to try it out yourself, and hopefully it won't fall down as part of that. We shall find out. And then finally, we've been sort of trying to build a bit of a community, build a bit of a brand. We've had these annual symposia. There's a few success stories that we've published on the website, and we've just finalized a special issue in Science of Computer Programming on success stories in MDE. We've just had the final papers out. We've just submitted the editorial to the editors. So that will also appear. I'll talk a bit about this in a little moment again. And then one thing that I'm quite intrigued about is that over the last year, we've managed to start building a sort of much more international network here. I mean, MDENet, as you might know, is funded by EPSC in the UK, but actually, not least through COVID, we've done a lot of work online and therefore internationally. But there's now a somewhat more formalized structure around this, which is beginning to build new networking opportunities as well there, and I'll say something about that in a moment as well. So let me talk a little bit about where we are going from here. Our original funding pretty much ends this month, except we managed to convince EPSRC that we've got a little bit of money left and we're doing good work, so we should be able to go on and spend that money a little bit for the rest of until about the summer next year. That means, among other things, we'll continue working on the education platform. It means we'll continue having more of these sort of research demos and training sessions and things like that online. We have a limited amount of funding still left over to offer for SeedCon funding, which we'll publish a call for that. We'll send out a call sort of in the next few days. So look out for that. There's probably going to be a deadline in sort of latest January, because obviously if we haven't made the decisions by then there won't be enough time for people to spend the money within the time available. But there's a limited funding available here as well. So we will need to be a bit careful about really how we allocate this best. But there is some opportunities there. And so we need to start thinking about where do we go next. And obviously one thing we have done is we have submitted a proposal to EPSOIC to go, you should really fund this for another round. There's good work happening here. You should give us more money. We will have to see what they say. I think this will come out in somewhere around April, and then we'll know more, and hopefully that will lead to a smooth continuation. But also, as I said, we've started building this international network here, which you can find under this URL or using the QR code at the bottom right there, which is a sort of a federation of networking activities across Europe and in principle beyond, but at the moment most of the collaborators are sort of in Europe. Trying to sort of build local networking activities in their countries and joining them together under the sort of bigger MDENet brand. We've asked for some funding in Europe, so that will, if that comes through, that will help us. But also, among other things, there's a workshop next week in Paris that's organised by some of the French colleagues, and a networking opportunity there. If you're still interested in coming to Paris next Friday, sort of as the last thing before Christmas, then you're certainly very much welcome to join us. And again, if you go to the website there's the links to all the information about that there as well, and the program for the workshop will come up in a couple of days there as well. We're building working on a sort of white paper about MDE to try and convince people, why should you put more funding into it, to argue to, but also to researchers in the field, where the interesting challenges are, where the interesting work is. So there's lots going on there. If you're interested in contributing to any of those kind of activities, please do feel free to come to me today, tomorrow, have a conversation, and I'd be more than happy to have people join us and help with that. I've said something about this education platform briefly, so I'm going to talk about that for a moment, because I think that's been one of the big developments, I think, over the last year or so, really. One of the problems that we've all faced before is that some of these MDE tools that can be quite cumbersome to just set up and get started with. And so if we want to teach our students about the cool ideas that there are, sometimes they actually just struggle getting the tools set up and never quite get to the point where they can actually learn the interesting ideas. And so, but also once they have the tools set up, sometimes those tools can do so much that they get a bit lost about actually where do I start, right? And so what we've tried to do is build a platform that's built on the sort of idea of an online playground. It's based off what Dimitris and Antonio and others have been doing in York for the Epsilon system, where they already had a bit of a playground, but we've sort of opened this up and made it more flexible so you can integrate other tools into it. And it allows you to basically set up a little repository, say on GitHub, where you put the relevant files, put a little declarative specification of what your learning activity should be, and then students can just go to this website and can go, right, I'm gonna try this out. I'm gonna have a play with this. And you have these little buttons here. This is probably not going to work on the screen now. You have these little buttons on the various panels that allow students to then go, I want to try this out. I want to see a result, see it do something on it, and it does that. But so it has two benefits for students. One is they don't have to set up all the tools, but also as a teacher, I control what they see and what they focus on and what they can do, so they can really focus on the activity at hand rather than getting confused by everything else that's going on. And again, links to the actual platform code's all available online. You can find with the QR code on the left. We're now at the point where we want people to try this out as much as possible, right? To see where it breaks, to see what we need to improve, to see what needs to get better to be used in real context. So please feel free to give it a try. We've got a sort of publicly hosted version at the moment. Some of the tech behind that will change over the next weeks and maybe into January or so to make it a little bit more robust, but the URL should stay, so that's educationplatform.md-network.org. There's a fair amount of documentation out there's a wiki there and so on and so forth, so have a look around that. And then if you find that interesting, try it out, and you build learning activities with it. We've set up a small competition for people to submit their learning activities to us by the end of March. There's a little prize involved. We want to basically showcase activities that people have built with this. So please check this out. This might be a good activity for your students to do as well, right? So to kind of just go, this is a nice project for you to try this out, build some activities, maybe win a small prize, do something cool and interesting. So have a look around. Again, the link to the competition is also on the slide here on the top right corner, and will also be linked from the main website imminently. Talked about success stories, and I just wanted to say again, we have this special issue in computer science of computer programming, so check that out. It has 6 success stories of MD, very different areas, very different fields, very much not your typical research paper, right? So they're much more about what was the experience, what did we learn, what worked, what didn't work, what was it good for. Again, QR code to the webpage here. I think Psycho will, once they've accepted the editorial, they'll also set up a sort of collection page for it, because they have this slightly strange thing where special issue papers are published whenever they get accepted, so they're slightly distributed over different issues of the journal at the moment. I have to thank Richard Page and Paula Munoz, who were co-editors on this and really helped a lot with making this happen. So finally, why we're here today for this annual symposium, lots going on. We've got 2 very exciting keynote speakers. We've got one tutorial from Antonio, which will use the platform, but talk about something very different. It'll talk about how to do some DevOps in the MD context, so that's quite nice. We've got a session around digital twins tomorrow. We've got talks from our SeedCon project tomorrow. And today we've got quite a lot of interesting short talks about various MD-related topics. So it's a sort of, it's a nice sort of mixed salad bowl kind of program, which will help us sort of just explore many different areas. And of course, I hope you'll all have really nice conversations and discussions with everybody here, and everybody's still arriving. All the details you'll already have seen. I've just put the URL here, but obviously you've already all know that. You've also seen the program here already as well, with the details on the next pages, which I haven't put on the slide. So the person who made it all happen, can we all turn around and embarrass him and give him a big round of applause to thank him for making it happen? Thank you, Nuno. And that's me done, and I can hand over to Lola, give our first keynote. I'm sure Nuno will help set up the slides here in a moment. Lola's been, I don't know, I've known you for quite a long time now, I think. Yes, I'm showing my age at least. Been working on MD and sort of artificial intelligence for quite a few years now, and doing lots of interesting work. And I'm really looking forward to you telling us about all the different things that you've been doing there, and how AI and model-driven engineering and modeling can fit together and can work together to revolutionize development of software, I guess. Over to you.